I am not a criminal. I am a veterinarian. Those two things stopped being different on a Thursday at 2 a.m. This is what happened between then and now. My father's clinic smelled like antiseptic and cattle. I know this because I grew up inside it. He'd walk me through the rooms as a child, pointing at instruments, naming them, explaining what they were for. I didn't retain the words. I retained the smell. And when he died on a Tuesday, 3 years before any of this, I opened the clinic on Wednesday. Not because I had to, because grief is easier when your hands are doing something. I was 34, unmarried. I had studied 6 years in Guadalajara, graduated with honors, and come back to this small town in Tamaulipas because someone had to. No other vet for 80 kilometers. I treated cattle mostly, some dogs, the occasional horse with a bad leg. I drove my father's truck. I wore his boots. They were a size too big. This was my life. Quiet, purposeful, small in the way that feels like enough. I had no idea what was already watching me. The call came on a Thursday, 2 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I did, because in a town like this, 2 a.m. means a rancher's animal is dying. I've answered that call 100 times. I know the sound of a man who needs help right now. This voice was different, calm, educated, almost. The kind of calm that has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with certainty. He called me doctor. He said he had a friend who needed attention, not an animal, a person. I told him I was a veterinarian. He said he knew exactly what I was. He said his friend had a bullet in his shoulder. He said a hospital wasn't possible. He said I was going to help. He didn't ask. I started to say no. And then he recited my mother's address, street name, house number, the color of her front door. And then, and this is the part I still think about, he said, she waters her garden every morning at 7:15. He was right. I didn't check. I didn't have to. The word no didn't leave my throat. It turned into something else entirely. Something that sounded, 20 minutes later, like, bring him. The man on my table was maybe 25, shirtless, entrance wound, left shoulder, no exit, bullet still inside. I worked with what I had. Forceps designed for removing wire from cattle stomachs. Saline meant for horses. Suture thread I use on dogs. My hands shook for the first 40 minutes. Then they stopped because my hands have always known what to do inside a body. My father taught me that. He was talking about animals. The principle held. When I was done, the man with the pistol tucked in his waistband, not hidden, displayed, set an envelope on my counter. 50,000 pesos. More than 2 months of work. He said the doctor did good. He said they'd be in touch. I wanted to say, don't. I said, nothing. The truck disappeared at 5 a.m. I stood in my clinic, covered in human blood, staring at that envelope, and I told myself 3 things before sunrise. This was a one-time thing. This was a one-time thing. This was a one-time thing. I hid the money in a bag of dog food in the storage room. I didn't spend it. Spending it meant accepting it. Not spending it meant it almost hadn't happened. The second call came 19 days later. I answered faster than I should have. Different voice. Same calm. Another friend. Bullet in the leg. I didn't argue. I didn't bring up my mother's address. I just said bring him, and I noticed, even then, that I said it without pausing. That should have told me something. By month 6, I had treated 9 men. Bullets. Stab wounds. A machete gash across a man's back that exposed the spine. Chemical burns on hands from cooking something I didn't ask about. I had ordered human surgical supplies by then, proper sutures, real anesthesia, antibiotics meant for people. Paid cash through a courier. The back room of my clinic had a new lock. I told the neighbors I was storing expensive equipment. Nobody questions a veterinarian with a locked door. The money had moved out of the dog food bag and into a hole in the floor beneath my father's old desk. 340,000 pesos. I hadn't spent a single one beyond supplies. I still drove his truck. Still ate at the same taqueria. Still wore the boots that were a size too big. If nothing changed on the outside, I told myself, nothing had really changed. My mother noticed something was wrong before I did. She didn't know what. She said I looked tired, said I'd lost weight. She made me dinner on Sundays and watched me eat like she was checking for cracks she couldn't see. Before I left, she'd hold my face in her hands and say, I worked too hard. One night, I almost told her everything right there in her kitchen. I didn't. A man died on my table in October. Gut shot, liver shredded. He was dead before they carried him in. I just didn't know it yet. I worked on him for 2 hours with horse clamps and saline, and the specific kind of focus that comes from not letting yourself think. The bleeding wouldn't stop. It was never going to stop. He died at 3:47 a.m. I stepped back. The two men against the wall went quiet and exchanged a look. I knew what that look meant. A doctor who can't save people is a liability. A liability is a problem. A problem gets solved. I talked fast. Medical terms they couldn't question. The wound was unsurvivable before he arrived. No hospital in the state could have changed the outcome. I used the words on purpose. Authority lives in language people can't challenge. One of them made a call, nodded at me. I was fine. I cleaned up. They took the body. I didn't ask where. That night I sat in the dark clinic alone and thought about the man's face. Maybe 22. A tattoo on his chest, a name. Probably a daughter. Somewhere, a little girl was going to wait for her father to come home, and he never would, and I was the last person who touched him alive. I put my head on the desk. I stayed there until the sun came up. I decided to stop. Clearest decision I'd ever made. The next call came in. I watched it ring. 6 times. I felt something close to relief. Then my mother called. She said 2 men had come by. Very polite. They brought flowers. They sat in her kitchen, drank her coffee, asked about her health. Friends of mine from the city, they said. My hands went cold. I called the unknown number back within the minute. I said I was sorry I missed the call. I said, bring him whenever. The man on the other end said no problem. He said everyone needs a day off. He said it the way you'd say it to a colleague, pleasantly. I never didn't answer again. A woman from the state prosecutor's office walked into my clinic one morning. Government ID, professional clothes. She said they'd heard rumors. A veterinarian. Medical services for the organization. She wasn't accusing me. She was offering a way out. Cooperate, testify, witness protection, new city, new name. She slid her card across the counter. I looked at it for half a second. I saw the whole thing. A courtroom. An apartment somewhere nobody knew my name. A life where the phone didn't ring at 2 a.m. A truck that actually fit me. Then I saw my mother's kitchen. The flowers on her table. 2 polite men memorizing the layout of her home over coffee. I told the woman I treated cows. That's all. She nodded slowly. She'd heard that answer before, from other men in other small towns with the same look in their eyes. She left. I burned the card in the parking lot and watched the ash drift up into the morning, like a future that had almost existed. 3 years now. Over 60 men treated. 4 dead on my table. I know their medical protocols better than their own people do. They gave me a satellite phone, a bulletproof vest. They offered a house in the city. I said no to the house. Accepting a house means this is my life. I still sleep in the room above the clinic where my father died. The hole in the floor holds 1.2 million pesos. I still haven't spent it. There's a woman. I met her at the feed store. She's a teacher, new to town. She knows nothing about me except that I'm the vet who's quiet and polite and has sad eyes. She asked if I wanted coffee. I said yes because for 30 minutes over coffee I could pretend I was the man I was supposed to be. After the 4th time, she reached across the table and took my hand. I let her, then I pulled away. She looked confused. I apologized. She said it was okay. It wasn't. I couldn't explain that everyone who gets close to me becomes leverage, a name in a file, a heartbeat with a use. I stopped calling her. She left a note at the clinic. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here if you need me. I read it 4 times. I folded it into my wallet. I never called. Some nights, I sit in the back room after everyone is gone and I look at my hands. Same hands that vaccinated puppies in vet school. Same hands my father guided along a cow's ribcage, teaching me where to press, how to listen. Same hands that tonight removed a bullet from a man who has almost certainly put bullets in other men. I went to school for 6 years to heal animals. Now I patch up killers so they can go back to killing. The oath was for animals, but the principle was the same. Do no harm. Every life I save in this back room enables harm I'll never see. The math doesn't work. It never did. I just got very good at not looking at the numbers. My phone is on the counter. It's 2 a.m. It's ringing. Unknown number. I answer on the first ring. No hesitation. Not even a breath. That's the part that should terrify me. It doesn't anymore. They never pointed a gun at me. They didn't have to. All they needed was one phone call. one calm voice, one piece of information about my mother's garden that I never gave anyone. That's the product. Not drugs, not money, not even bodies. The product is a specific kind of silence, the silence of a person who has just realized the word no has been quietly, permanently removed from their vocabulary. No contract, no ceremony, no single moment I can point to and say, there, that's the night I crossed the line. Just a phone ringing at 2 a.m., a decision that felt like survival, and then another, until I couldn't remember which side of the line I started on. Somewhere tonight, in a small town, a phone is ringing. The person staring at it thinks it's a one-time thing. They're wrong. They're wrong.